Every time I think about power, I feel like it has a moving definition. I feel like sometimes it looks like a representative. More often than not, it looks like a collective of a ton of people who know exactly what's going on, voicing exactly what they want and need. And them never breaking apart is where I've seen power demonstrated most effectively.
Power is, first of all, understanding that you have power, right? We had a Black Power movement because it was felt that there was the void of power, the void of self-efficacy. So then it means voice. It means the ability to advocate for yourself. It means to be able to leverage. It means to get into family-sustaining wages. It means turning on the faucet and water actually come out. It means being able to go to your employer and say that you're experiencing sexual harassment, racial discrimination, whatever the issues are, workers' rights issues are being violated, and know that once you go there, you're in that room by yourself, but you are not alone because the Black Worker Center is standing with you.
People don't realize how much power they have with the voice and the ideas and the day-to-day living that they have, the experience that they have, and how if the organic conversations that already happen in the living room, at the bus stop, at church, those organic conversations, if they're structured a little bit different, we start creating true power.
Power is people power. Power is making sure that community is not only informed, but also has the ability to be able to voice their opinions, their ability to voice their concerns, and just having the accessibility to be able to kind of make their presence known. And so we're always trying to make educated and informed decisions that are done with community instead of for community.
Power is the ability to be able to accomplish, your goals. And those could be very personal goals at the community level, or it could be very systemic goals as well.
Well, I think there's money power and there's people power. That's how I personally define power. To me, you can do a lot with money. Money is power. And then people power, if you can get enough people, you can vote people out. You can, flood the city council meeting and do a protest and not let them speak. And you can vote new people in.
There is a power element that wants to exclude others from the power conversation, from the resource. Oftentimes, nothing changes unless there's a disruption. That's the nature of protest. That's the nature of a strike. If everyone remains comfortable, we maintain the status quo.
A lot of people in power here in the Imperial Valley are men, or white, or they've been in they've just had so much power throughout the years that it's hard to kind of speak to them because you feel like there is a thick wall that you cannot break because they've had this much power.
For so long in our community, when it comes to power, it feels like power has been acted upon us. And so for us here at the center, we do our best to be a space where we share in power. We try to share in the power to create, and opening up the space for people to really make the space their own, to find a sense of home here.
Power holders in Imperial County are the landowners, the people with both resources, monetary resources, land, and then positions in office, or positions that they funded, campaigns that they funded, elected officials that are now in office driving their agendas, right? So usually you can kind of trace it back to a landowner or a big business owner, which is probably a landowner. If your goal is not to make the rich richer, you're not popular here. And so we're often not popular. We're popular with a lot of the residents though. Like people that are outside of the politics because it's been designed that way, right? Government works for us, right? Government works for the people, or they should, not just for the county machine. And I think that government has done such a good job at being exclusionary, where residents truly don't feel included, and so, are not included.
Because so often when you have people with power who want to come in and try to tell you what they think you need based on your stats or based on what metrics you read, you lose a little bit of what the nuance or what the culture or the community is for those people.
When you see money that is meant for the community be used for reasons that are not even benefiting the community, it's sad. It makes you question why they're in power and who gave them that power and why they've been in power for so long and why it's so hard to get them out of there.
Community power is when residents feel really ownership in their economies, ownership in the land use decisions that get done, ownership in the kind of, the schools that they want to see, the kind of parks that they want to see, and that they allow themselves to sort of dream that and communicate that and like fight for that, But beyond that, it's like those folks should be in office, right? Everyone has interests, but it's when the interests are the people, when the interests are historically excluded people that speak a different language, people with disabilities, people that look different than us. When we are all participating, right, all residents, youth involved, older folks involved, if we are kind of use our power that we have inherently as residents, right?
It's extremely vital for communities to know and maintain their power, because the moment that they believe that they don't have it is the way that other powers that be maintain status quo. Because public pressure is something that I think people underestimate a lot of the time, but I think that that's always been the reality of the most powerful force, especially in communities like San Bernardino and communities across the nation.
If the community only realized, if they were just in solidarity, the mountains that they could move.
For some reason, growing up, I always thought of the mayor of my town, like, oh my God, they're a celebrity. How did they get there? Like, it's so crazy to me. And even now, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm friends with the mayor. But you realize that it's like, you are just part of a community and people see how much of a change you're willing to make and they believe in you. And I want to do something like that.
And so, my experience has been transformed by this pandemic. It has forced me to take action much sooner or in a much more urgent way than before. It has allowed me to really kind of reflect on what are the barriers that are kind of keeping people such as myself and younger individuals from getting involved and really being able to kind of take back the power. I am living the decisions that the people for the past 20 years have made. So when they ask me, where does your experience come with this? Well, it comes from the lack of opportunities that I grew up with because of the bad investments that you guys have all done.
But when a community member feels confident that they are being seen and heard, they are not afraid to pick up the phone and call a decision maker or someone who is in a position where they can influence and say, hey, this is what I heard was going to happen. It's not happening. What's going on? At the individual level, I've seen community members do that and feel comfortable doing it. And at the community level, I go back to the community of North Shore. The project that started some of the work was the bus line expansion. And when they were able to see the bus go to their communities, then they were like, oh, we need a park. How do we get that then? And they saw the park, and then they said, well, you know, we also need a school. And right now there's plans for a new school. I mean, not just plans, they're actually, they're gonna start construction pretty soon on a new elementary school in North Shore.
It's literally the person-to-person contact. It's those simple everyday conversations that are had between two people or maybe a group of folks, just casually, informally, right? And it happens because there's trust there. And that's the best way to build this power and build community.
You know, Ivy Equity was really started on nothing but volunteers, really just community members that was like, hey, what's going on? I don't know. And through that, now I look 3 years later, and now I look at all of the achievements that we've been able to do. When I look at the communities that we've been able to impact, when I look at the work, when I look at the resources that we are, you know, facilitating, to me, I hope it just stands as a living testament for others.
I feel like there's a disconnect between communities realizing the amount of power they have to be able to change the systems that are in place. And so it's important to start making those connections and realizing that, like, this is where it starts. We all kind of have to pay a little more attention. And I say that with, like, my whole heart on my sleeve, because I realize that a lot of us here are just trying to survive.
Our work is a good example of sometimes running water on a rock, expecting erosion. It takes an extremely long time for that to happen. But over time, there is erosion that is experienced.
Investing time in your community is never a waste. It gives back in ways that you don't even imagine. You take the time to go out there, make conversation, make friendships, make these connections to truly understand, and then realize that the ways that maybe the county or people in power, the ways that they've been doing things is not the only way that you can do things. You don't have to stick to what the book says. Do things the way that you know is gonna impact the community and make that change.
There is a lot of power in being able to create a community, and that creative power resides within creatives and artists. We are so fortunate to have these friendships and these relationships, because it's through those relationships that we've been able to build power together, and that has allowed us to bring in funding and resources to our community that has then allowed us to also bring in more people into the circle and to be able to hire them and pay them to do things that they love and things that they're talented in. And we always knew that art was a vehicle to improve the community and to better the community. But it's been interesting to see that connected to actual funds and to a real space.
There's a lot that comes out of bringing people together, I think. We can't really just communicate online or through news articles. We have to communicate in person, face to face. But that's really what it is, though, is like, are people being listened to? If you include them in projects, if you include them in town halls, if you actually make an effort to go to their door and talk to them face to face about things, they feel more connected, they feel more listened, they feel human. That's what we want. We want people to feel human. We want people to feel included.
So Ivy Equity's role is like a facilitator trying to raise awareness about what's happening, the developments that's happening, and also trying to translate a lot of jargon and a lot of bureaucratic processes, and trying to translate those into ways that mean something to people and into ways that also benefit people, right? We don't want to just like extract, like we want to, in partnership, facilitate.
Organizing and coalescing. So we don't do nearly enough of that. We have our agendas that separate us and keep us from building and organizing in the way that we should. So one person feels like, well, we have to do a media campaign. The other person says, no, we need to be on the streets. The other one person says, no, we got to work through policy. We have to do it all, right? So organizing matters, and that's part of the power building process. And understanding that you don't show up and I give you power. You already have power. God designed that you have power, right? So we're saying that you got power. It's there. Let's bring it up. Let's show you how to access it so that it comes out and it flourishes and it works for you, your family, and your community.
One thing that was very apparent in Calexico was that there was a need for a younger representation. And so two of the current council members that are now sitting in council, one being the current mayor and another one just being another council member, is that they both have their roots in community organizing. And so that has made partnership when it comes to trying to kind of bring our resources together, wearing our community hat and then wearing the governmental hat, and trying to kind of bring that together to essentially have a fuller picture, have a much more rounded approach to a community solution.
The kind of movement building that's happening with like Black and Brown communities here locally, it's something that we're very intentional about ensuring, that we're not just fighting for causes that are deeply a priority for Brown folks, but also Black folks and Indigenous communities. Their issue is our issue, right? And that we, in everything that we do, that we don't allow ourselves to move up if, liberation and justice is not happening to other folks too.
The same issues that we see all the time. We have this pot of money available. We're gonna have a community meeting so that we can get your input as to what you think your priorities are. So, now we're looking at like a pot of like $7.2 million, like, okay, that could do something with that, And so was interested to kind of see what the city's plan was. And so what we did then is that we did our own community kind of meeting and just tried to kind of get people to tell us what their concerns are. We tried to advocate, we tried to educate people on what was being proposed. And then we tried to get their information as to what it is they would like to see. And then we implemented that information and condensed it into what we called Plan B, and then presented that information at a city council meeting, which ultimately at that time ended up passing. At least to me, it was almost like a declaration of like, we're not going anywhere, and we're gonna be here, and we're gonna fight for the people, and we're gonna continue to bring all the resources that we can as best as we know how to. And a large part of that win was because that room was filled with community.
I think in order for there to be true economic justice, people need to come together. They really, as cliche as this may sound, put their differences aside and say, hey, let's collectively decide on what we want our community to look like, and let's reach that goal together. Because I am telling you, if hundreds of people line up to give public comment at a city council meeting, there's no way that they're not going to listen. Especially if it's people from all walks of life. It's not just the same grassroots advocates that are disruptive, right? As they say, it's everyone. It's the taxpayers, right? It's the wife of the police officer. It's the teacher. It's the grocery store owner.
In my experience, social movements push ideas and shift culture through mindsets. And that's what is key to like building a people's economy, is like, how are we shifting mindsets to understand that it's even possible? So I think most people, they're stuck in there every day. And until you can show them the light, right? Or you can show them the tools, they're not gonna think that anything else is possible. And I think you'll see that with like the union organizers, right? Or the warehouse workers. Warehouse Worker Resource Center, who's one of our members, is like, they're teaching these warehouse workers, like, you can speak out, you can use these like legal processes to like be heard in your workplace. It's all like, I feel like that's part of the movement though, is like that mind shift of like, you can do it.
The art is really important because it allows us to see something for what it's not yet, where it allows us to see a world that doesn't yet exist.
So I've been a huge component of like combining arts with organizing, right? And even just building, and that's how I think movements are built, and especially that cultural movement. We're hoping to, have people affected by this development take those artworks home and be able to look at that and say, hey, we do have power. It's not that Amazon has the power, it's the people power, and we can keep our homes if we fight.
We need the organizing EJ social justice career pathway. Like, if we're gonna talk about it in these like very like jargony terms, then I do have something to say about workforce development, right? Because I want to see a workforce and a pathway for environmental justice organizers. And that's part of the reason why we said, you know what? We're gonna go all in, we're gonna fundraise, we're gonna try to build an organizing body that's paid from 9 to 5 so that we're able to do these things while folks are working, facilitate that, but build beyond that.
A world where we don't fight is not one that we care to live in, and we can't imagine. It's terrifying to think about the day that we stop fighting. And it's not all on us, but inherently it's all in us.
But really, this work has provided me an opportunity to kind of practice what has been preached to me, what I have been taught, and really just trying to be the advocate that I needed when I was younger.
We have power. We have power, and the power is inherent in us. We will need partners, to be sure. We will need allies, to be certain. But we have the raw material for our miracle. It's with us. It's in our house. And so we believe it is our job to help folks find the ingredients already present in their living quarters so that they can build and eat and feed not only themselves, but their legacies and generations.